It's cool to see these people that I haven't seen for a while. Leslie, hi, sweetheart. And hi, Diane. Haven't seen you in a while either. And Sunshine, your bright, sunshiny face is just wonderful. And there's Tom and Andy. I love seeing them. It's just weird. I mean, it seems like, I mean, it doesn't seem like it. It's just a flat fact, and it's weird that my life seems to go in tens. I was 10 years a priest, then 10 years working inpatient as in a drug and alcohol hospital, and then 10 years doing outpatient drug and alcohol counseling. And then I moved here and 10 years here. I mean, what's the, that's too old. Yeah, no, I don't want to, well, I'll be adding another 10 to that before too long. So it's kind of exciting. But, you know, and each time I had to kind of redefine myself a little bit, you know. New chapter. Yeah. Isn't it weird that we have these definitions of ourselves, but one thing is that it doesn't, even if you stayed in the same job your entire life, you're going to have to change your definitions as you get older. That's just the way you go, yeah, you know. I mean, as things, just as we get older, a spouse dies, well, you know, I'm no longer married to so and so, or, and then particularly men are really good at defining themselves about the things that they're able to do and accomplish. And as we get older, those abilities kind of begin to slide, and all of a sudden our definition of ourselves changes. It's just the way it is. If I were to ask you guys, what do you, how would you define yourself? If you know, I've heard it said, you know, with the big picture, I, or big letters, I am, and then a blank after that, that whatever you put after that is going to define you. So for some of us, it may be, you know, a mother, or you know, you may put your employment on there, I'm happy, I am not feeling well, I am chronically ill, I am this. How would you define yourself? Give me a shot. You're a writer, and you are. Cool. What's the name? Say it again. Froggle Wogs. Cool. Is it a kid's book?
Yes, but parents can enjoy it too.
Oh, cool. I love those. I love those. I like those movies too, where kids movies, and oh well, I'm really only 9 years old. Well, how would you define yourself? Give me one. Yes, ma'am. I am content.
So happy I'm here, you know, and it's just like that always. And except the people, but
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah. I'm so glad you're happy you moved here. I'm glad to, yeah. Give me a couple others. Any of them out there? No. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
First thing that popped into my mind was I am human.
I am human. Just here. You're spiritual for. Yes. Yes. There's a book that changed my life. Anybody ever heard of Thomas Merton, the mystic priest that died in India a while back? It's The Spirituality of Thomas Merton, and it's entitled Merton's Palace to Nowhere. And one of the themes throughout the book is letting go of all of our identities, so that we simply, you are, not anything. Okay, we're just going to drop that. That's not going to go anywhere for a while. There's going to be a big gap in there, and it's going to be like, oh no, what happened to that? Well, we're just going to let it go. You know, I'm not the only one that, and I know I'm not, that has experienced some really devastating things in your life that really kind of rocked your world. Anybody ever had one of those? Come on, I mean, it's just a dumb question, isn't it? Anybody ever had anything bad happen in their life? Yeah, we all have. And I still do. I still, we still have them. We will. But another thing that I can say for absolute certain is that I do not want those events to define my existence. I don't want to be the person who blah, 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 lost their spouse. I don't want to be the person that, well, Danny, you had that crap that happened with your leg. How would you like to define I'm the guy who went through that horrible accident, Yeah, that is not you. No, it's not. It's not even close. But one interesting thing and a good thing is each one of those events, as difficult as they are, after some reflection and growth, they all help mold me into the person that I am today. And I'm very grateful for each one of those. I am grateful for who I am sitting right here. There's nothing as I look that I am not grateful for. And that's a beautiful revelation. Is that part of me wants to be ashamed of that. Bill, you shouldn't say things like that about yourself, that you're grateful for every aspect of your being. Doesn't that sound arrogant? No, it's a surrender. It's a surrender to all that is. And therefore I can be grateful. And to say that not only am I grateful for who I am, now here's another one that really, years before I could not say this, that I believe that the universe loves me for every bit of who I am. Every single bit of who I am. Because I am an extension of that universe. And because of that, I do believe that as an extension of that universe, the universe is by its very nature on my side. That can't change. Ultimately, if I'm going to decide if the universe is on my side, it is, I just kind of blew it by the way I phrased that sentence, it's a decision. It's something that I sit back and make, I decide. I could say other things. I could say, oh, look at all the crap that I've been through in my life. The universe, such a hard teacher. And I've heard people say that. It's just not easy. But the question I have is, to what end would I say that? Where does saying such a thing make it easier for me to exist on this planet? No. To wallow in that difficulty of the things that I've been through? No, it doesn't. So how do I sum up my existence as it is here right after my 70th birthday and retiring as administrator here? How do I sum it all up? Well, one thing for sure, it is, interestingly, this kind of popped into my head, it's utterly illogical for me to exist right now, for me to be sitting here on this planet. And it's illogical because of all the things that have happened. I should be dead, I don't know how many times. I mean, if I had any life insurance, it would have paid off a long time ago to somebody. But the reality is that I am here. And for some reason, all these bizarre events that should have taken my life, not one of them did. So what's an interesting way, and probably a very truthful way, that I could define myself? I am, yeah, I'm retired, I'm retarded. Survivor, yes.
I'm exactly where I should be.
I'm exactly where I should be, and I'm grateful for my very existence. I am, and I will tell you, if I were to fill that line, I am, what I would put in there is grateful. I would say it is my gratitude that defines me as a person. Each one of us are ultimately faced with that decision of whether or not or how we are going to define our relationship with the universe. Ultimately, those decisions are divided, I think, into two ways. I can either define my relationship with the universe as one based on fear, it's out to get me, or I can base my relationship with the universe as one rooted in love. And I could easily have chosen fear. I mean, after all the crap that's happened to me in my life, I could look back and say, well, when's the next shoe going to drop? Don't ask that one, because it'll drop right on your freaking head, won't it? Well, you get what you ask for. But ultimately, I have to make a decision. I could say, look at all those painful things that happened to me. Surely it's going to happen again. And the next time I'm going to be done for. And I know people who have defined themselves as such. And personally, it's exhausting for me to be in their presence. It just seems to suck all the life out of me. And if I do that, what I develop is a defensive relationship with the universe. And it seems to be defined by anxiety and fear and control. I've got to control every detail of the universe because I see it as a loose cannon that if I don't control it, it's going to spin around and blow me out of my chair. That's one way I can look at it. But if I run into someone wondering how to define the universe, my question probably would be a pretty simple one. Is that how you want to live? Do you want to live in a defensive relationship with the universe? And if not, what do? You stop and seek to redefine yourself in relationship with the universe. And I've got an alternate choice, and it's pretty logical. Ultimately, I can sit back and say, instead of dwelling on the difficult things that have happened in our life, I can say, but wait a minute, there's something that is ultimately certain. I'm still sitting here. I'm still sitting here thinking about it. I'm still sitting here wondering how I should define myself, perhaps. Well, doesn't that tell me something? Not one of those things nailed you. Not one of those things took you out. And I can also recognize that each one of those difficulties has given me another opportunity to see God's grace pulling me through each experience. And if my eyes are open, that's going to teach me something. In each experience of my life, I've been given a further reason to love the divine hand that has held me and guided me through. And I can either focus on the difficulty of the experience, or I can focus on that divine hand that led me through. And it's a choice. It's a 50-50. You decide which one you want to look at. I know for certain at this point in my life, for absolute certain, did I say that clearly enough? I know for sure there is nothing to fear. There is nothing to fear. I've been through enough and come to the other side stronger and happier. And that tells me very clearly that what in this life is there to fear? Either I'm going to be pulled through and stand on the other side and be grateful for the experiences I look back, or I'm going to be dead and I'm going to be in the spirit world where it's better even yet. So come on, what is there to fear? I can't come up with anything. if I really want to use absolute flawless logic, I would say that I have gotten through 100% of each one of the experiences that I've had. So what does that tell me? That tells me that the odds are pretty good on my favor of getting through the next one. 100% so far. I've gotten through each one of the days that I found difficult and rejoiced in each one of the days I found happy, and then rejoiced looking back at even the difficult ones that I got through it. So I found that gratitude is the ultimate bottom line that would define my existence. And the odds are incredibly on my favor that it's going to be great from now on. But ultimately, it's your decision. What relationship do you want to develop with the universe? If I stop pretty much in pretty much every talk, at some point I say, wait a minute, I'm speaking really from my masculine side, logic and reason and all that kind of stuff. Well, there's a feminine side there too. And my intuition plays a strong part in how I relate to the universe. Because if I am sitting in my living room, I can close my eyes. Or if I'm out in nature, which I love to do, I can sit and look out over whatever the view is. Maybe it's trees, maybe it's I'm at the edge and I'm looking down over a valley filled with green trees. And as I simply sit there in the silence, I can feel the swirl of the universe flowing around me and flowing through me. And I'm not making it up. I'm not just sitting here saying this good stuff because I'm doing a talk and because it sounds nice. But I can. And that to me is the feminine side of myself, sensing the beauty and the love of the universe flowing through me. And I'm instinctively somehow aware. The instinct is that what I am feeling coming from the universe is love. Why do I know that? I don't know how I know that. It's just there. And I can feel it just like I can feel my hands right now. I can feel it so real. I know that I can securely embrace the divine love that I feel, and peacefully know that that very same love will embrace me back, not just now, but eternally. I look at you, Leslie, and you knew when you held Gordon that love was going to be there forever. How did you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And did you feel that love that was there and just know that it couldn't end ever? Yeah. And I could go and I say, how do you know that? Well, isn't that a kind of a dumb question? How do you know? You know it somehow. It's down there and it is so sure. That's how I feel when I'm sitting out in nature and looking out over this beautiful reality. And I get that sense that the universe is holding me. There's no one who could ever change my mind or change how I feel about that. And it doesn't matter what difficulties I've had in the past when I feel that love. They all vanish in smoke. And I've had enough hard knocks to know that hard knocks aren't evil. They're not really bad. Every time that hard knocks are coming knocking on my door, they've only done one thing, and that's it. They've given me a choice. That's it. Hard knocks, all they've done ever is give me a choice. And I've learned from it. But how about this? What if something really difficult comes along and it doesn't look like it's ever going to go away? some problem comes and you go, wait a minute, I'm going to have to live with this. And eventually things like that do come. You know, I think that with this neuropathy that I have, it really hurts sometimes. And, you know, I've done everything I can think of. And the bottom line is, do I want to fight it? Or do I accept that this is okay? This is part of reality, and it's not there to harm me. It's there somehow to help me to grow. And you know, again, I'm thinking about you, Leslie, you know, with having to go through the, what do you call that? Every 3 times a week, dialysis. Yeah. You may suddenly get healed. Yeah, I hope my neuropathy pain goes away, but you know what? If it doesn't, yeah, me too. I learned to look at that and say, I am at peace with whatever it may be. There's a place, yeah, I don't have a hell of a lot of choice. There's a place in the Bible, it's in 2 Corinthians, and Paul says something I think that is super profound. I mean, deeply profound. He's talking about this exact thing where he had a problem and nobody knows what the problem is. He called it his thorn in the flesh. And he describes how his relationship with that thorn in the flesh developed. At first, he was just mad about it. He wanted it to go away. And he says he begged God 3 times that it be taken away. And well, bottom line, that didn't work because it didn't go away. Essentially, Paul said that he tended in the past to be boastful and arrogant. Well, if you ever read the Bible, you can tell that right off the bat. You know, he starts out being pretty boastful and arrogant, right? Yeah, I mean, he really is. And then all of a sudden, this big thing comes along, this thorn in the flesh. And he says he realizes that difficulty was given to him for a purpose, so it would keep him in a prayerful state and help him to not become so prideful. But he says that after he asked God 3 times to take it away, he says God told him something. He said, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness. In the weakness, your power is made perfect. In other words, God told him that hardship was given to him to be a vehicle of grace. And he was also told that it wasn't going to be taken away, at least at that point. Well, think about how you might respond to a message from God like that. People would respond differently, I suppose. Paul said, he said, therefore, I will boast all the more gladly. Because see, he started out with being a boastful person, right? So he says, now I will boast all the more gladly about this weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in this weakness and in hardships and in difficulties, for I have learned that when I am weak, it is then that I become strong. So the bottom line, whatever he was suffering, he realized it was not an evil. It wasn't something that he needed to get exorcised. Paul was meant to embrace that issue just the same way that he was meant to embrace God, because the thorn in the flesh itself was God dwelling in his body and working within him. It's an interesting way to develop your relationship with the universe. That even the difficult parts aren't there to be shunned or to be upset about, but to be embraced as God dwelling within you. So therefore, I guess what I want to do is to embrace every experience as if I were meeting God face to face and honoring those experiences as the sacred ground upon which I stand. It may be painful, it may be joyful, but if it's difficult, I'm going to use Jesus's words and say, I pray that it pass me by. But, because I'm not a masochist, I don't like difficulties. I don't like pain. I don't like to hurt. So, I'd ask for it to go away. But I also want to remember the format that Jesus used in his own prayers. There was always a suffix that he ended his prayers with. God, do this. God, may take this away, blah, blah, blah. But then the last line of all of his prayers were, not my will, but thy will be done. So every prayer ended with a surrender. Bottom line, difficult experiences are not to be feared or run from. Because if you run from your experiences, by the very nature of that, you're running from God. Because God is in each and every experience you have. I believe the universe absolutely unconditionally has your back. Even if I make a destructive decision. And because of that destructive decision, I end up with the consequences of that decision. And I've done that 1 or 2 times, perhaps. I'm not sure. I may be exaggerating. But if I recognize that the difficulty that I experience is not punishment, I'm being provided with the necessary experience I need to grow into the person that I'm going to be. And what do they say? That's sometimes I need a little shake up to wake up. I've been through that 2 or 3 or 4 times. Wait a minute, I said a couple before, didn't I? Well, okay. Let's back up. So I'm going to ask you, what's the last difficulty that each one of us are going to face that could shake us up, could rattle our faith? What's the last one that I have to redefine for myself? It's going to be your last experience, isn't it? Yeah, well, at least on this planet. So how do I face that inevitability that's especially when it's at my door, whether it's at my door through me experiencing it with a loved one, or through my experiencing it myself? What is I lost where I'm at. Let's see, where am I at? Well, if I've gone through life recognizing that the universe is on my side, that each experience I have is meeting God face to face, if that's how I've chosen to live, then ultimately I see death as a vehicle of the grace of God. That it's a sacred reality that's not an end of my life, but death is always a part of my life. Just like every other experience I've ever had, it's holy ground upon which I come to know the presence and the love of the divine. Ultimately, I recognize that the Grim Reaper is just God in disguise, coming to take you home. If my very good friend, St. Francis, is a model to me in that. He experienced some really bad stuff in his life, chronic diseases that caused him constant pain. And, we don't know what they were. Even if he told us what they were from back then, it wouldn't match up with our medical definitions we have now. We just know that he went through a great deal of suffering. And for him, pain was no different than any other part of creation. It didn't matter, it was the streams that he sat by, or when he talked to the fish or talked to the animals, that each one of them, he met God face to face in each thing. So death to him was a way of God approaching him. Whenever he experienced pain, it was interesting, he always used the phrase brother pain. And if I can look at difficulties in my life that way, to recognize that they're family, they're part of the family of my life. And honestly, when I talk to people about pain in my feet, I always say, well, it's just pain. It's just pain. That's all it is. Well, it doesn't define me. It isn't, it isn't, I am, no, pain. No, it's just an experience that I go through. I recognize God in it. And so he says, okay, it's a brother. It's part of the family. Let's call it brother pain. And at the end of his life, when he recognized his life was coming to an end, he reached out for that experience. He looked at it hopefully, actually, and he called it Sister Death, realizing that she was another part of the family of life. Love is all there is. That's it. That's it. Love is all there is. If I didn't believe that, I would fear pain and death. But I'm enough of a Buddhist to realize that it's my resistance of experience that causes me suffering. And it's my acceptance of experience that releases me from suffering. Anybody here ever do anything? Yeah, okay, Danny, I know you did. You worked with electricity. Yeah, like a whole lot, right? So, you know, you got an electrical circuit. Okay, and you put a resistor on that circuit, a resistor. That all those electrons get backed up in there, right? And then when all those electrons get backed up, because you got a resistor on there, what's gonna happen? Energy, it's gonna end up getting hot. And that's how you get house fires, is because you put a resistor on what should be flowing freely. Well, that teaches me something. I don't want to resist the flow of my experience. And the only way I can stop resisting the flow of my experience is to accept it as good. Every single bit of it. If I do that, then I won't resist any of my experiences anymore. Life will flow. And I will no longer suffer. I will be at peace. You know, I want to do this stuff to keep me healthy. I'm going to get out and exercise. I want to eat right, do all those things, because I'd like to live a reasonably long life, you know, long enough to experience what I'm supposed to experience. But the bottom line is, even though I want to live that long life, this isn't my home, folks. I mean, I don't believe everybody's an illusion like some people tell me. That's not how I look at it personally. But it's not my home. You're my family, the tribe. But even though I say that, this isn't where I want to live forever. It doesn't, I'm a sojourner on this earth. I'm here to take the walk for a while, and then it's going to end. You know, I don't know how many times I've crossed the Great Divide. I have no clue. Possibly countless. I don't have any idea. But so why would I worry about doing it again? I mean, I think that death to me is kind of like a swinging door somewhere on the side of my life, and it just, and she comes in ever so often and takes me home. And it just, so why would I be afraid of it? Sister Death, she's part of the family. She's part of the tribe. She won't come until it's the right time. And at that time, I want to be there like St. Francis did, and I want to welcome her into my home again and have nothing to fear. Ultimately, the joy that I feel in this life rests, as I see it, on one thing. I can pin it down to something pretty clear. Do I or do I not believe that the universe, by its very nature, every bit of it, even the difficult parts, even the end, that every single aspect of my experience is on my side. Do I meet every experience as an encounter with the divine, with God? Do I see each experience as being face to face with God? Do I know that my every step, regardless where it takes me and regardless what I encounter, that in every step I am stepping on holy ground? And I can be grateful for it. If this is true, then you will no longer live in fear. Fear will have no place in your life whatsoever. I will have made a choice to dwell in love. And therefore, I will know beyond a fact or beyond a doubt that I am already existing in eternity. That's it.